I basically following up on that, that's exactly what has happened. I have heard from a couple of different constituents and reached out to a few more to talk to them about it, because of the different options that were provided when we were discussing this last time. And the one that seemed to get the warmest reception was taking whatever we could get out of it and putting it back into the dike somehow, as far as financially, when we were going over what the money could be used for, harvesting lumber, saving some, or taking it and putting it back into dike repair or maintenance, or just within that waterway. And that seemed to be the one that went over best. There were a few people that threw out, as far as the lumber was concerned, they didn't understand why we couldn't just harvest if we wanted to, 1, 2, 3, something, if we wanted something symbolic from that end of town, like make a desk at the entryway or whatever it may be of City Hall, or, but I think one of the things that got thrown out there was we could do trim, we could do furniture, that the possibilities are endless. No,
Yeah.
but that was one of the things that, when thrown out there and discussed with a bunch of them, that got a pretty icy reception. So the one that seemed to go over best.
Yeah.
There's my first one.
Dad joke. He did a little.
All right. I'll see myself. But no, that was definitely.
It's so good.
I know. You have that many children, it just happens naturally. So can't help the dad humor. So no, but as far as the conversations went, like that did seem to be the way, that was the direction that most of those conversations took, was that if we had that capability, they would love to see us, harvest the timber at little to no expense to the city, and if there is anything left over, they would love us to put that back reinvest into the West End dike. So, yeah.
Okay.
That was some of my findings out in the community, and wanted to bring that back.
No, that's important.
Does that nuke your presentation?
Nope.
Okay.
I don't have a presentation.
Okay.
No presentation to nuke.
Okay.
I'm just here to answer questions.
All right. So with that in mind, let's, and I would have to agree with that. I think that shows some good faith effort on our part to start making, more noticeable strides on efforts to the dike or / levee.
So based off of the numbers we have, just to give you guys an idea of what dollar figures we're talking about here. This is from the July Ohio Timber Report. There will be a January Timber Report, but it's only February 6th, so we probably won't get that for a while. We are looking at max $44,000 is the value of the timber that we would get from the levee. Our quote for the removals was $20,000. So if we take all of it and we get the highest value we can out of that lumber, we're left with about $24,000. I'm not saying it's nothing, just doesn't go super far. I don't have an idea about if we were to reserve a specific amount of wood for just accent pieces, door trims, window trims, how much we would want to put aside. We're estimating about 16,700 board feet, roughly, of walnut. Just off the top of my head, I'm thinking we need at least 1,000 of that, probably just to do like some minor trim if you want to be consistent throughout a building. I mean, one door is probably about 20 board feet when you consider the waste. Just guessing, no actual numbers there, but it's a lot.
Quentin, let me ask you this. There have been several, I know, conversations or recommendations about getting a skid steer that could handle, or a skid steer attachment, I should say.
It's, like the skid steer attachment.
That would
That's
help with clearing sections of the levee.
That's more for like underbrushing.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, like a forestry head.
Sure, yeah.
We've been
And-
looking into that.
And comments have been made, and this is in no way, committing them to this, but that Aerial Foundation Park could utilize something like this as well, and that they have to routinely rent one whenever they need one, and it would be nice to have on hand with a partnership with the city. So if we were to set what I'm hearing, and I've heard a quote around 35.
For purchase or rent?
Yeah, for purchase.
For purchase, yeah, it depends on what it is, and that was what we weren't sure of That
Okay.
depends on the skid steer that you have,
Right.
and whether it's high flow, low flow, things of that nature.
So let's just sit with that 35,000 figure. If after we sell, we'll just play around with the numbers that you've thrown out. We get 44,000 for the lumber,
Best case scenario.
best case, and then we pay 20, 22, something like that.
20. It's
Okay.
right on the dot. 20.
Okay.
Yep.
So then we've got 24 to play with. All right. We put that toward this attachment. We get a partner to come in and pay for the rest of the attachment. Can we use something like this? What's the usage of this attachment along the levee?
So we've had contractors that have used a forestry head for mulching, just even last year. I don't know that any of our contractors own one.
We have had 3 different contractors. One of them owns.
One of them owns one.
One
The
of
others
the
have had to
3.
rent as well. If we purchase one, the only contingency is our contractors can't use our equipment. Only volunteers can use our equipment. We can't pay somebody else.
Can we use that piece of equipment?
That's a question for Tom Hinkle.
Okay.
If he's got the manpower to be able to take on tasks like that, even if it's just a couple of times a year, that's still an extra thing that's going to take somebody several days to do.
The other thing you got to really think about, if you've ever used a flail type piece of equipment.
Let me go ahead and get out in front of you. I have not.
So, one trip through a hidden fence row with that is like 3 or 4 days of maintenance and untangling, and they're a high maintenance item.
One-
Well, and
So,
this is.
but we do have we've had a good time through the winter to be able
Let
to do
me
this.
let me say why I wanted to do this and on camera is because this has been kind of a conversation that has been pushed forward by citizens a multitude of times, and
Yeah.
first off, I don't know, and if we could handle this as with our city staff, because I believe there are folks out there that want us to do this and feel like that this is just like, well, obviously, why don't you go handle it? I don't know that we have the ability to do that, one. And number 2, I don't know that it's a piece of equipment that is clearly expensive, and I don't know that we routinely need it. So, do we routinely need it? And then the answer to the first question seems to be Tom Hinkle's wheelhouse.
Yeah, it's
We would say, I mean, probably operational. We did kind of the same test run on stump grinding. We did our tree inventory 2016, and we found citizens have been allowed to cut down street trees, but they never took the stumps out.
Sure.
So we did a test run where we rented the stump grinder for a whole week. Everybody hitting it as hard as they could. We got 16 hours of operations between driving around, setting up, unloading, and that's we had to. The crew kind of had to stop what they were doing to do that, because you have to make sure people move their cars. And so we decided in that case we would kind of farm out the stump grinding a little bit at a time. So I think the maximum we've done in a year is probably 3 weeks worth of grinding, and that's been all around the levees, the levee system. And then we've also come back with herbicide treatment. So I think we've discussed some forestry management partnerships with the high school or with the public school system, because they have a good bit of urban timber that we could also help them with something like that, manage it. But it's probably some extra training, and I don't know. I mean, the idea is if we get caught up and we are treating the invasive plants, the idea is if you're willing to buy it, use it for 4 years, and then say, hey, we could sell this, that's a pretty good option. I don't think after a while, I think you'd be caught up.
After one of the other things, without getting into too much detail as far as names and people are concerned, I had also had something thrown out there about possibly, like you had said, Aerial Foundation Park or something, like finding another entity that uses one as well, that is also getting a contractor. They rent it. The ones that I was talking to, they rent one, and they had discussed possibly partnering with us on something like that, so that it would be less expense to us because we're sharing expense, and it's not necessarily using our guys to have to go in and do it.
Just like the asphalt. I mean, it's very similar to an asphalt zipper. You got things you got to change the teeth and things like that. So if that's something like, if we had maybe I mean, that's something the county or
We work
townships
with,
might.
yeah, we work with Rob on a MOA on something like that. Go with there.
Trying to track that down.
What-
Can I ask with timber, just because
Sure.
I'm curious? So the $44,000 best case scenario, from where to where? Like what is, geographically, what are we covering? Is that the entirety of the dike?
That's
Is
south
that
of
the
High
west
Street
end?
to.
That's what?
It's south of High
West
Street to Main Street, right, Quentin?
All the way down, okay.
I mean,
Main or Norton, I can't remember if it's all the way to
Norton.
Main.
I think we
Norton
stopped
Street,
at
I
Norton.
believe. So yeah, basically the entire southwest side of the levee.
Okay.
So when we would have to act relatively soon, right? Because there's some sort of,
Bad.
no, yeah, it's the bat, right? Yeah. or
In April,
some
was it?
sort of- Yeah.
Yeah, you can't cut without heavy environmental studies. We cannot cut any riparian trees after April 1st, right, Quentin?
After March 31st.
March
April
31st.
1st is the first day that
You can't cut.
bats come out of
So we
hibernation.
need to take action today, like for recommendation.
Right. I mean, I don't know that we're gonna finish this. I mean, we could get it started.
Okay.
So, yeah, if you want to take action, let's.
Just to keep in mind, as Brian had mentioned about following up with herbicide treatment, one of our biggest limiting factors how much we can mulch in a year is how much we can go back in and plant afterward. Because we go in and we just mulch down a bunch of honeysuckle and we don't treat it with herbicide and we don't aggressively plant native replacements, the honeysuckle is just coming back. And we're just doing that over and over and over again. Our planting right now has been almost entirely volunteer based. It's been the Bee City Commission that's been doing that, and with no budget. So pretty much all the trees and seeds we're getting are stuff that are being donated by local nurseries or collected by the commission itself. So that's a limiting factor right there, just to keep that in mind. It's similar as when with trees, right? We're limited to about 300 trees because that's all we can water in a year with one truck and 2 employees. So yeah, we'd love to plant 1,000 trees a year, but can't. So how much we can actually mulch is substantially dependent on how much we can replace. Otherwise, we're just going back in year after year, mulching the same places.
Right, and that's kind of my thought is if you bought it and we, some of these areas, we're gonna have to mulch 3 or 4 times before we can get in and do the eradication.
So let's go ahead to, how about I entertain a motion on is this a recommendation to council, Rob?
It's less than,
Yeah,
I mean, yeah,
Less than 75, so
Yeah, so-
we can go ahead and do it. Okay, so you can recommend to the safety service director, I guess. I don't know that we even need to take action on this, so.
no, I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, this is just a sense of what the commission believes.
Yeah. So, with consent, I guess, from the committee, why don't we go ahead and start moving forward on this?
well, let me put it in words. You can say, tell me if you hate this or not. How about
Yeah.
that? I would say that or maybe we should make a motion. I don't know. Maybe the thing to discuss is harvesting the trees and reinvesting the funds in the stormwater enterprise account.
Yeah, so, and then we would potentially buy that skid steer attachment from the stormwater fund at that point.
What we do with the funds later could be determined. I would just say that if we want to reserve an amount, we need to determine that amount at some point, before it's too late, because we're going to be taking the lumber to whoever's purchasing it. But if we want to keep some of it, we need to determine that amount probably within the next week.
Yeah. So,
I think,
and
yeah.
then we'll have in the interim, just so everyone's clear, we'll have a conversation with Tom Hinkle and talk about the different divisions in Public Works to see if that's a tenable thing, and if not, the funds that we take from that and Aerial Foundation Park, and see what they're willing to do with us, the Foundation Park Conservancy, and see if we can work out some sort of cost share arrangement.
I didn't track that down very far. I just know that
Sure.
it was
There was
thrown
some
out there as a
tacit
possibility
interest,
of,
yeah.
hey, this might be something we can partner on.
Right, and if not, what I'm hearing is there's still some ability to do that. So if that's the case, we can also look out renting the thing with the contractor and still getting some of that done, whether it's us or third party.
Well, Quinn, let me throw this out. So as far as, we do have tree removal funding through the tree commission and grants.
Correct.
What if we were to,
There's also
Carve out.
some in the general fund. It's minimal, but there is some in.
what if we were to carve out the trees we plan to harvest for a general fund project? We're paid, so what if we hire a company for $20,000 to harvest the trees? The PO has, say, $16,000 line item that's the utility, and then the remainder is a grant or a general fund tree account, and then those trees are then saved for the future general fund project.
You're just saying you need $20,000 to get this off the ground.
Right, I'm saying like we could
We can
split
find that.
Right, well,
We
I'm
don't
saying,
have to do that right here. We
well,
can-
you could, stormwater could pay for most of it if they're getting the benefit of the trees. If the trees that are being sold could be harvested by stormwater, the trees that are being saved for other purposes could be harvested by the general fund.
So in his example, if we were to save 25% of the trees, 25% of the cost would be paid by the general fund, and then 75% of the cost would be floated by the stormwater utility, basically to be reimbursed from the
And
sale.
then be reimbursed
Sounds
it looks like a 2-to-1
Yeah.
reimbursement.
Yeah,
And
I
then-
don't think we need to make some sort of Franken motion for that. We can.
Just as a general
Yeah,
understanding.
well, that's what we'll do. So we'll take this offline and we'll go have those conversations, and I think that there's no reason. You guys do what you need to do to start. I think you know what needs
Yep.
to happen henceforth. And you can take those conversations back to who those conversations
Yeah.
need to go back
Yep.
to. And I will also make those phone calls as well, because they've come to me.
So, and part of that, we will, because we will have to revegetate part of the levee with grass.
Yeah.
So some of this would have to go back into restoration. I think some could go into the forestry head. So,
So that's fine, and then we'll find a way to, and I know that there will be ways to get some help to B City and whatnot. The
Yeah,
caval-
I'm not
the
concerned about B
cavalry's
City. B City is very efficient, and
Yeah.
it surprises me how much the group is able to get done
Right.
with such few number of people. Just at the end of the day,
Help B City, folks.
yeah, if we do 1,000 linear feet of riparian corridor that's mulched, they're going to be able to do maybe 100, 200 feet of it in plantings, and the rest of it's just going to have to be remulched, the next year. So,
All right, sounds good.
go team.
Anything else? All right, we're good on old business. Is there anything else? You're good, Quentin. Is there anything else that needs to come before the Utilities Commission today? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Second motion,
We have a
adjourned.
motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed stay here. We are adjourned. 9:10.
Go team. That was great.
So, and we said
No more math.
that,
I'm about to get you 11.
I mean, I
Math for
feel,
Quentin. No more
I
math.
feel, I feel for Westgate. I mean, they got a
I'm
hard.
getting text messages as
You can make fun of us on camera.
Yeah,
well,